Hello everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. Today will be my game week 13 transfer plans. We'll take a look at how I'm getting on in game week 12. We're on a massive green arrow, even without Eze in the starting lineup that I got rid of this game week, which we'll discuss in just a second. We'll also take a look at the best game week 13 free hit. Let's get straight into it. So taking a look at our game week 12 score, I'm currently on 54 points with Bruno Fernandes yet to play versus Everton. I'm 144k in the world. Again, a massive green arrow from 320k. And I'm hoping this can become an even bigger green arrow when Bruno plays tonight. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, the Eze out for Bruno Fernandes. So I mean, in hindsight, I suppose it was a mistake. I could have easily held on to Eze, and there were a few telling me to hold on to him. For me, I was more than happy with the money in the bank to go from Eze up to Bruno Fernandes. I'm actually more annoyed that he scored a hat trick versus Tottenham than anything to do with FPL. It was just so typical that, of course, we were so close to signing him. We end up getting Xavi Simons and Eze scores a hat trick. And it's kind of similar how I end up picking Bruno Fernandes over Eze, even though I did own him. And he's after doing me in a sense where I'm a Tottenham fan and an FPL player. So it's a double edged sword and very, very unfortunate. But again, because I've had a good game week, not too many complaints for myself. So let's run through some of my picks for game week 12. So one goal, we got Nick Pope again. He conceded a lot of chances versus City. I think a lot of us expected that. A lot of people also put the captaincy on Erling Haaland. Now he could have had one, two, or even three penalties. So quite unfortunate for those who did end up going with Erling Haaland. And again, Pope made a good few saves. Also Donnarumma on the other end, who played really well. And to be honest, even though Newcastle probably should have conceded, maybe a small bit unfortunate to concede the goal they did, quite scrappy. And the likes of Livermento and Hall coming back in place for Newcastle. Which, to be honest, going ahead with this Everton away game, I'm quite happy with Pope, even though he's done nothing but blank. I got a back three with Joachim Anderson, Richards, and Timber, who all returned. Again, I keep saying how this is the most valuable defense in FPL, and they've come up with the goods once again. Again, I was not expecting a 10-pointer from Joachim Anderson, getting a DEFCON clean sheet and 2 bonus points. Richards, who unfortunately got subbed off with a 6-pointer in the 83rd minute. He was on 8 DEFCON, I believe, after 45 minutes. So unfortunate not to get the extra points there. And I believe it was a small bit of cramp or potentially a hamstring injury. Again, we'll talk about that in the team selection section in just a second. Beside him, we've got Jurrien Timber, who again got an assist versus my Tottenham team in a massive win in a North London derby. Again, very, very underwhelming performance by Tottenham. Again, I'm still Frank in. I feel like he's not gotten enough time. It's just two teams in two different periods of their cycle. Again, this is Arteta's 7th season, and this is Thomas Frank's first, of course, only in a few months. Now, I know a lot of people, particularly Spurs fans, want to see more positive football. I think it's one of the biggest things that Spurs fans look for when we're looking for a new manager. What style of player they're going to bring, and it's one of the things that Spurs fans loved about Ange. But I think as a team and where we currently are with the injury list we have, I mean, I have to be frank, and I always back the manager and whatever it is they want to do. Now, I do still need to see more performances before we ever start talking about Frank out. But again, I don't want to speak about this fixture too much. And Eze in general, he's after crushing me, and a little smirk from him as well to top it off. But on Bruno Fernandes, again, we're yet to see him, so we won't talk about him too much. Sarr, they've been quite underperforming, Sarr and Mateta had some big chances, and it's more so the Crystal Palace assets that look phenomenal at the back. Again, all the guys on the fence getting very, very close to DEFCON, if not hitting it. The likes of Richards and Lacroix, who just missed out, and Daniel Munoz with a goal. So Ismail Assar, very disappointing. But again, at that price point, I don't expect him to return week in, week out. One that is returning week in, week out, it seems at this rate, is Anderson with a 9-pointer. Last week he scored a goal, and this week he got a fairly lucky assist and a bonus point this game week. So I spoke about how Anderson is great, great value at 5.3. A lot of people overlooked him because, he hasn't quite returned. But I'm not one to speak about the data, but the data in terms of DEFCON was there, and he's a player who's just on phenomenal form, creating many, many chances for Forest on some set piece duty. Beside him, we've got Mo Salah again. A blank, but I thought he actually played quite well. It's more so a Liverpool problem in my mind, where Liverpool are just struggling systematically and are on poor form in the league. So whether or not they can get out of this rut, we'll see with time. But For me, I don't actually think it's a problem with Salah. I was actually quite impressed by him. He looked quite sharp again, just not many golden chances for him. Beside him, we've got Enzo with a massive 11 pointer. I'm delighted with the patience I kept with him. A lot of people actually sold him, so I was more than happy with my 11 pointer. And it feels like he could have had even more with the assists he got given to Neto, and also the chance he could have got if he was just slipped in behind across the 6 yard box. So very happy with Enzo. Pedro, on the other hand, very, very disappointed. And it looks like these two assets have played their time in my own team, and I think it might be time to look to get rid of them, which we'll talk about in just a second. Lastly, we have Erling Haaland with a 2 pointer. Again, not the outcome a lot of managers are looking at. 180% EO, which I was quite surprised at. And on the bench, we got Dubravka, Rodon, Mukiele, and Marquis. I had a big decision on whether or not I wanted to play Rodon or Mukiele ahead of Anderson. Fortunately, I decided to tug it out with Anderson. I'm very, very happy with it. Let's get into my Game Week 13 team selection. Taking a look at our Game Week 13 team selection. Again, the captaincy armband is on Mo Salah. I own Mo Salah, and he has a phenomenal fixture this game week. Again, I will need to see what happens midweek in the Champions League before I ever make a final decision on this again. It's just my current thought process, and I had this penciled in weeks before I even owned Mo Salah. By the way, do hit the like button and subscribe if you are enjoying the content. And I do apologize if my vocals are not up to scratch. I am a small bit sick. I have a bit of a head cold, so do bear that in mind. But with that said, I am a Mo Salah believer. I think he is playing a bit better. I won't be surprised to see a Liverpool result midweek. But again, Liverpool are just in a rut. And I feel like even with West Ham, who've just conceded about 4.1 XG to Bournemouth, I mean, this is a great fixture, even though Erling Haaland does play with Leeds at home. Now, Manny will be on free hit this game week. And with that in mind, I believe if you were on free hit, you would go with Mo Salah. Now, do let me know in the comment section if you are on Mo Salah and whether or not you would captain them if you are bringing them in. No doubt, though, Erling Haaland is just as good if you don't think Mo Salah is the one for you. I feel like it's an opportunity that I'm willing to take risk on again. Again, just the week past, again, Haaland and Salah blanked. And now I know the fixture wasn't there for Haaland, but it just goes to show that even Haaland is human, and sometimes both of them might blank. And who knows, Bruno Fernandes might come out the optimal option this game week, as Saka also blanked even though he got DEFCON. Anyway, that's enough on captaincy. Let me talk about some of my other picks and where I'll be looking to make some moves. So, as you can see, I have Chris Richards on the bench for the time being. I want to see some quotes from Ollie Glasner before I stick him back in the team. Again, I just feel what Richards' knock before the injury this game week, that he was we're going to see some rotation eventually on Chris Richards, because the fixture congestion for Palace, as you know, is absolutely crazy due to them being in the Conference League. Nick Pope on goal, like I said, I'm happy holding on to it Everton away. It's not a great fixture, it's not a bad fixture. Going into this game week with 3 free transfers, I'm quite excited to get rid of João Pedro and Enzo Fernandez. Now, with Arsenal at home, again, this is the hardest fixture in the league. I don't need to tell you that. But I actually think Chelsea have looked quite good. For me, Pedro definitely needs to go. I think there is an argument to be had on whether or not you would like to hold on to Enzo Fernandez. Again, I feel like he's always going to tick away nicely. And he is the heart of this Chelsea team. Again, he's one of the more experienced players in this very young Chelsea team. And I think on the free hit is where I'll talk about where I'll be looking to make some of my own transfers for the game, which I'll talk about in the next section. But just looking at my own team, currently what we have Bruno Fernandes again with Crystal Palace away, always going to tick away nicely. We have Anderson and Timber, which play Chelsea away and Tottenham away, which I actually really don't love as much as Anderson is always there for DEFCON. I'm unsure if we're going to see it in this game. Now, I know I am, maybe away with the fairies with the current results and where Tottenham are at this current point of the season. But Fulham away, or Fulham at home for Tottenham would be a good opportunity for Frank to pick up a big win at home at our stadium that is heavily, heavily due. So Anderson is not a bad option by any means. I just don't think he's great, and I would be surprised to see a clean sheet, to be honest, for Anderson in this game. Mukiele, which I don't love, with Bournemouth at home. Like I said, they're creating lots of chances. Again, Bournemouth are always going to do that, and with Semenyo out ill and a slight injury doubt, if he comes back into this game, I've almost no doubt in my mind that Sunderland will concede. Now, of course, Mukiele is great for the DEFCON, so Again, maybe that might keep me afloat. Jurriën Timber, on the other hand, with Chelsea away, again, this is another one I don't love. Timber's playing phenomenal and he's always going to have a significant attacking threat, but away at the bridge is never ideal, even for a team like Arsenal. But I do expect Arsenal to still hold very high clean sheet probabilities going into this game. Again, Saturday with United at home, which I'm more than happy to start. And Elliot Anderson in midfield, which I just feel like his floor is 4 points at the minimum. Brighton is a hard game, and he will be busy. And I also feel like I have to play him just with his current form, and if he is potentially on penalties, why not hold on to him? Anyway, that's my game week 12 or 13 team selection. Let's take a look at the game week 13 free hit. So taking a look at what I deem the best free hit 13. Now I just want to reiterate something. I cannot tell you when the best week to play the free hit is. I've already played mine. Unfortunately, I've gained 45 points up on when I played it. I believe it was game week 6 or 4. I actually can't remember. I should have fact checked that. But what I would say for those on free hit, what I would be looking for on whether or not I would be playing it is if it is going to significantly outscore my own team. I would put 20 points at a base minimum to compare it against my own team. Like if you've hard fixtures like Enzo and Pedro and even some of the United assets and Palace assets that you just don't think are going to do it this game week, again, I would hedge with caution because it is dangerous. You could easily get rid of any of those United and Crystal Palace assets that are both on good form, and you could see a 2-2 game that would sting you. But if you want to, just put all your eggs in one basket and go ahead with the free hit, go for it. And I feel like it is a decent week with how the fixtures have landed to use it, especially with a lot of managers not owning Mo Salah. So let's run through the team goalkeeper to striker and let you know about some of my picks. And then we'll talk about some of my transfer plans for my own team based on some of these picks in this team. So on goal, we've got Martinez. Now, I feel like Martinez with Wolves at home is a great option. Again, Villa are on phenomenal form. When I saw the league table yesterday after the Arsenal game, where they beat Spurs, of course, I was very surprised to see them so high up. And it just goes to show that teams go through these spells of form. And Villa are just on this wave in the league where there's winning game after game. And they play against Wolves, who have been so poor, and it's why I've doubled up on the Villa defense. Now, Martinez comes in at 5 million, I believe, and Matty Cash comes in at 4.6. Just to note, this team has 0 million in the bank. But with Wolves at home, again, what can you expect for the Villa defense? So Matty Cash, he's somewhat decent for DEFCON. His floor for DEFCON is quite decent, and he provides a significant attacking threat. I believe on my free hit, I actually went for Matty Cash, and the week after I brought him in, and he returned with a goal. So he has very, very good attacking threat, and I would be having him in my free hit draft if I did activate the button. Beside him, I've got Josko Guardiola leads at home and Collins. Now, like I said, you are going to have to play with some risk on free hit. Not that it's optimal, but I would be looking to try and maximize my points. And I'm going with a lot of players that people wouldn't own, with the likes of Collins. So I feel like Collins always provides decent attacking threat from corners, of course, and he's actually really decent for DEFCON. Now, don't know if I'd be expecting DEFCON with Burnley at home, but Burnley are a team who always try to go for it. I think particularly in these games versus the mid-table teams like Brentford. Now, Brentford have looked quite good. On that note, let's talk about Thiago, who again scored a penalty, missed a penalty. Again, I feel like at that price point on a free hit, it's one that a lot of people won't own, and great value. So Collins is in again. I just feel like it's an opportunity to go elsewhere and just try to do something different. And it's a nice fixture for Brentford. Josko Guardiola, I feel with the triple up on the City boys with Leeds at home, it's a no-brainer. I think you'll see a lot of triple cities, and I think it is justified. What I would say is you'll need to see a lot of the games midweek on what happens. Again, I feel if you see maybe 90 minutes with Foden midweek, you might be put off. Same with Guardiola, but if you see a 75-minute sub for Foden and same for Guardiola, you'll be quite confident going into Leeds at home that they'll get a start. Beside him, we've got Anderson again. Like I said, just a player on such good form, and it leaves you do a lot with a Salah and Haaland draft. You get the likes of Foden and Ekitike. On that note, let's talk about Salah and Ekitike. So for me, like I said, I would be playing with risk. Liverpool are trying to find form. They go into this West Ham game off the back of many losses. I know they had one win in between with Villa, But they'll be looking to flip this around. And I feel like Ekitike is still their best striker. Isaac had an absolute stinker in that last game versus Forest. And I feel like it's only a matter of time until Ekitike starts in the league. Now, again, I would hedge with caution. I don't think it would be Ekitike for sure as of now. I would want to see what they do midweek. But based on that, if I saw Gakpo be benched midweek, I'd actually go with him for the weekend versus West Ham. If I saw Ekitike be benched midweek in the Champions League, I would go with Ekitike. Now, again, I think same goes if I saw 60 minutes for Ekitike or Isaac midweek. I'd be hopeful for a start towards the weekend. If that's not for you with the risk appetite, if that's not for you at all, I would just move Ekitike to potentially even a Watkins, to be honest. Again, Unai Emery loves Ollie Watkins, and Wolves is just that bad that I would want to go a small bit differential with my third striker slot. Alternatively, you could go with a Jean-Philippe Mateta if you're comfortable holding on to him. Or you could go with Nick Voldemade, who of course plays Everton away. Maybe he might get the nod when we see United play against Everton tonight, and he is getting significant amount of chances for Newcastle and potentially on penalties with Gordon still out. So that rounds up the free hit 13 team. Let me know in the comment section what you think of that. Lastly, in the next section, we'll talk about my game week 13 transfer plans. So taking a look at my game week 13 watch list, the left column, of course, are the transfer plans for my own team. The middle column is the best general transfers that I think a lot of managers will be looking at going forward. And the third column are the best differentials going ahead into game week 13. So let's start off with my own team and some of the transfers that I could be making. Again, I have 3 free transfers and 0 million in the bank. And in the top left, I have a fixture ticker from FPL team for the corresponding players. First off, the 2 transfers that I'd be most likely to make. Again, I'm not set on this, but I do really like them, and they are 2 popular players. Yankuba Minta and Nick Volamade, who have Everton away and Nottingham Forest away. Now, I think first off, I have the exact money to do it with the 2 Chelsea guys I have in place, Enzo Fernandez and João Pedro. And I do think these 2 are 2 significant upgrades. Now, Nick Volamade still potentially being on penalties with Anthony Gordon, not fully back fit yet. I do wonder, is he going to start seeing reduced minutes? Because I know there were some early subs happening last game week before he had this game versus City. But I still feel like at 7.4, he's great value when he considers on penalties. And with the likes of Lewis Hall and Livermento in place now for Newcastle, again, Trippier injured, Burns suspended, I do wonder, does that provide a lot more service for Nick Voldemade? And I feel like just having Newcastle striker at 7.4 million is great value. So it's definitely someone I've had my eye on. The other transfer, Yankuba Minta, again, it's a fixture play. Forest, Villa, West Ham. Liverpool, Arsenal, and West Ham again. I just feel like even in some of the bigger games, he can get DEFCON. Again, when I say some of the bigger games, I mean particularly Liverpool and Arsenal, because Villa, you don't get too many DEFCON against. And also, Brighton I always feel comfortable as an attack. They're always going to score goals. Again, 2 assists for Minsa in the week. He's a phenomenal player in good form. He also has such a big engine, and it looks like his minutes are fairly secure in this Brighton team. I actually wouldn't have too many minutes worries going into that run of games. So I do fancy also putting some money in the bank if I do end up going Enzo and João Pedro down, as they're both cheaper than João Pedro and Enzo Fernandez. So those are 2 of the potential moves I could make. If I do go down that route, or if I want to do one of them, I could also do Virgil van Dijk potentially for a Rodin or Mukiele. The other move I was looking at was Jurrien Timber to Van Dijk. Again, a lot of people will be skeptical of that move, and I understand that. But again, it's just the fixtures are that good for Liverpool that no matter what form they are on, if they can get in a run of games where they're going to keep a lot of the ball against a lot of these lower side teams, again like West Ham, Sunderland, Leeds, Brighton, Tottenham, which is a great fixture now, Wolves and Leeds again. I mean, those are great fixtures, and I think when you have a 6 million asset now who's going to consistently get DEFCON and provide significant attacking threat, and I don't think his minutes are at risk at all, I think he's a great option, even though they've looked poor defensively. Again, West Ham don't create too much. Sunderland might cause some issue, but again, I just feel like he's still a good option in my mind. And in comparison to all the defenders, other than Josko Guardiola, who would be on this list as a differential, I really like. Looking at the 2 other options I have on this list, Jurrien Timber again. A lot of people will want a lot of that Arsenal defense, even though they go with a tough fixture at the bridge with Chelsea away. But when you look past those games, you have Brentford, Villa, Wolves, Everton, Brighton, and Villa again. Great run of fixtures for Arsenal. I don't think it's a great entry point. I think particularly if I was on free hit, I wouldn't own Jurriën Timber, and I'd actually look to bring him in game week 14 for Brentford instead. I do still feel like he's going to miss one of these games, but I wouldn't let me put me off Jurriën Timber again with the attacking trait provided. Two pre-assists and an assist in that game versus Tottenham, great option. In the middle, we have Joachim Anderson, the absolute heart of this team. Again, he plays against Brighton, which is a decent fixture. Again, he will be tested. And I always just feel like, at 5.3 million, you can't go wrong with Anderson. 90-minute man nailed. Looks like he's going to get the odd penalty, hopefully. I don't know what you'd put his pen share at. I actually have him a bit higher than you probably expect, at around 40%. I just feel like after scoring that last penalty and Morgan Gibbs White kind of been off him, he might even take him over Jesus up top. And then as the best general transfer, I think as value, and because he's getting chances and penalties and Brentford are on good form and has a great opening fixture, is Thiago. Again, I'm not exactly sold on Thiago, hence why I have Volomade ahead of him for my own team, but for what he brings for a team that are on form, I feel like he's a great option. And again, can't go wrong at that price point. The other two differentials I have are Morgan Rogers with Wolves at home. Emery just loves Rogers, and he's finally finding form. And along with that, it's Aston Villa who are also finding form. So shout out to all the people in my deadline stream who did advise Morgan Rogers again. I didn't decide to go there, and I do think there is a place for him in your team currently, but again, he is at an awkward price. I think he's 6.8 million, 6.7 million, which is a small bit expensive for me, but the fixtures are good for Villa, and I don't see why not go for him as a differential. And then the last option is Danny Welbeck, who's just ticking along so nicely. Again, a quality finish. The minutes are there. He's still on penalties, it looks like. So another great differential option. Would I go for him ahead of Thiago? I feel like he's definitely a viable option. And again, he comes in at a different price point to Volomade. So that concludes the watch list and some of my transfer plans, lads. Again, do hit the like button and subscribe if you aren't already. We are looming in on 10k subscribers. Hope you enjoyed the video. And again, we will have a team selection hopefully Thursday during the day at some point. So do keep an eye on that ahead of a deadline stream. 2 hours before the deadline. So if you did enjoy the video, do hit the like button. And as usual, I will see you in the next.